Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We review anything and everything. And today we're getting into our first look at a micro galaxy squadron set. Now, first I'm going to start with saying it's going to be a long video because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about when it comes to just this series and then this ship. But with that being said, link's going to be in the description below for you guys purchases on Amazon. Check that out if you guys are interested in purchasing this. So I am new to the Micro Galaxy Squadron line, and I've seen it before in stores. I've seen it in Target, and a couple, like maybe about a year ago, and or a little less than a year ago. And I was actually almost interested in purchasing it, purchasing one of the sets. I remember I seen the Millennium Falcon, I seen the Slave One, and I know I've seen at different times the what's Mandalorian ship, the Razor Crest. And obviously, you guys know from watching the channel that I am a fan of Star Wars and I am a fan of the ships and whatnot. But the thing about it is, before I had seen this line, I had first purchased the Lego Ghost ship of this same design, but for Lego, which came out roughly about either August or September of 2023. So a little over a year ago now. And that was kind of my first jump into the ship. I became a fan of the ship. Afterwards, I started watching the Ahsoka show while I had the ship put together, the Lego ship. And so it kind of went hand in hand. Now, granted, it didn't show that ship a lot inside the show, but nonetheless, it was just kind of the theme going on at the time. And that at that point, I did a more deep dive into researching the ship. Realized that it was part of the show Rebels, which you show up here because this one is affiliated with the Rebels. The only difference between the Rebels one and the Ahsoka one is just the crew members in it. Other than that, it's essentially the same ship. And so that got me into the Ghost ship itself. Now, like I said, I've seen the Micro Squadron, and the thing about it is, what was interesting was I realized that scale wise, I'm going to kind of do a little deep dive into the scale wise, is that scale wise, the Micro Squadron seemed to be, for the most part, about like a 1-to-1 scale, compared to, for the size of the characters to the ships. And so that seems to be the reason why they never went beyond the size of, say, something like a hero ship, Millennium Falcon, Razor Crest, whatever the case is. Now, this ship just coming out, this is the actual largest ship that they've ever had, which this is supposed to be considerably, not considerably, but a decent amount larger than the Millennium Falcon. We'll say maybe about 33% larger than the Millennium Falcon in its overall scale and scope. And so that seems to be the case here, and they're able to fit that size range. Now, what's interesting is, and I'm going to bring in the Lego Ghost ship just for comparison. This actually is around the same size, almost exactly the same size as um, the Lego Ghost playset scale, because there isn't a UCS scale yet. So the playset scale, which means when they say the term playset scale, for those who are not familiar with Lego, just means that it's a smaller size made to work with your minifigures, not necessarily 1-to-1 scale of how the minifigures would be in relation to the actual size of the ship. So what's interesting is they're about the same size, but yet the scope of, and I happen to have a minifigure on hand right here, the scope of a minifigure you can see is probably about, I would say, roughly in scope and size and everything. And Lego figures don't scale exactly to height and width. They're a little more wider than they are taller. But generally speaking, you could say this is maybe about 4 times the size of one of those little figures. So which means the Lego Ghost ship should be about 4 times the size of this one, yet they're about the same size. And I say that to say, not knocking Lego within its own scale and its own right. They do what fits for their size, because you can't really make ships 1-to-1 scale with figures, and it'd be practical. They do have the UCS line where they do that for, say, the Millennium Falcon, but essentially that is, something that is so big that most people won't be able to have. So the Micro Squadron set, and I'm just gonna, shorten it to Micro Squadron rather than say Micro Galaxy Squadron. The Micro Squadron set essentially is a way of you getting almost like a 1-to-1 scale by having tiny figures, getting a 1-to-1 scale in size of the ships. But they aren't going to obviously start doing things like Star Destroyers, because then you're going to lose that scale that they kind of stick by. But they used to have a line like this made from, I want to say it was Micro Machines, made a kind of line of this many, many years back. So this kind of continues that theme. So at this point now, we're gonna go around the ship. I mean, go around the box. I know that I rambled on a bit. This is gonna run you roughly about $60. You can see here, you got the crew here of Hera Syndulla, Sabine Wren. This is I barely can see this name. Kanan Jarrus and Garazd. So I'm not too familiar with those two characters as well. I mean, I've looked them up, but the name's not going to roll off the tongue because in the Lego set um, you had Hera Syndulla with about four other characters that are not here. So also let it be known that you can actually buy the Ghost 1 ship. Later, they're going to have the Ghost 2 ship available, and that can dock on the back of this. You can see here it says lights and sound features. If this does not come with batteries, I am not going to put batteries in it for this review. It allows you to kind of shift the way you turn it, and it should make lights and sounds activated by the motion. It says 18 features that it comes with, play features. So here you can see they give it almost like a holographic kind of display like you would in Star Wars. Right here shows a little cutout card, which has, I don't know if there's any information on the back of that cutout card. If that is, that's actually pretty cool. It's showing you kind of like this general shape of it. Here shows you all the points that it opens, which is interesting. And, so one additional thing I'm going to say about this too is that recently HasLabs, for anyone who's familiar with HasLabs and Hasbro Pulse and all the kind of, it's all, Hasbro stuff. And they will do the crowdfunded, projects from HasLabs. And essentially they have done what do you call it? They've done one for the Ghost, and it's actually really big, and it's part of the vintage collection, the Hasbro vintage Star Wars vintage collection scale, and that's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, roughly a 1-to-1 size as well for 3 3/4 inch figures. So those who are familiar with the channel as well know that we review the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World line of figures, and those for the most part is the same type of scale. So you can imagine that same kind of scaling with those kind of figures. The way that the dinosaurs, how big they get, especially the long necks, that ship is supposed to be scaled to that, which, if I'm not mistaken, the length of the ship of the Ghost is roughly about, I think it's 114 feet long, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in that ballpark range. So this would scale to that for a 3 3/4 inch, figures. So with that being said, most people aren't able to get that. One, because it's crowdfunded. Two, it's probably somewhere upwards of $500. Three, it's a limited run. Once you finish the crowdfunding, you can't buy it otherwise. You can buy it on the aftermarket, but at that point, you're probably paying a good $200 or $300 more than what it goes for. My point to say that is that this is the only option for you to get a to scale model with the size of the figures, in scale with the figures, along with getting the fully detailed model that it is. Now, what's interesting is this thing's actually set up slightly different than the HasLabs one, and some small differences. Mainly that, and that one they have side rooms, two side rooms, one on each side, um, and they have double bunks in them. This one gives you two separate rooms on each side rather than double bunks. I don't know which one's considered the real because I've never watched the Rebels show, and Ahsoka doesn't really show you too much the interior of this ship because this is not the ship that's focused on. But and then there also is a cargo area down below that this doesn't have it able to do, but that's fine for this scale. So we're going to get into this now, open up. Obviously, you see, like I said before, there's going to be a very long video. I was never planning on buying the Squadron line because with the Lego sets that I purchased, I knew I was going to purchase at that time. I didn't, and I already, for those who are familiar with the channel, know that I have also invested in the line of the dying line of what is it called again? Mission Fleet, which I thought was a great line in terms of the way it scales. You don't have as much detail interior, but it gives you a nice size, exterior. The problem though is that I wasn't going to jump into this line because it would have been too much. But when I saw the Ghost, I just had to, because to be honest, this is probably my favorite ship at this point. I don't know how and why, because I love the Razor Crest as well. You can see there's an interior to this box. Let me see if this comes out. It does. So you have this there, and I'm going to put that back into the box. I just want to show it to you guys really quickly. So you can see this could be used as a backdrop for the ship. Pull these instructions out, and the back of that card that I said that could potentially be a cutout card on the back of the box does not have any kind of information on the back. So if you were to do that, essentially you're cutting a hole in the box if you wanted to keep the box for no reason, and unless you wrote information on the back of it yourself, it'll be up to you. I'm going to throw this back in here. Put this over to the side. Nice box. Matter of fact, I'm sorry, I just want to show a little bit of that box art on the side so you can see the ghost there. What's interesting is if you're not too familiar with the ghost completely, art on there, and you take it in the way I have, which is certain parts of Ahsoka, certain bits of research from the Rebel show, like you're looking on YouTube, but not getting it all at one moment because I couldn't go through one series in just a small shot of time, along with different things. Every iteration that I've seen is different in terms of, I looked up the HasLab one. Here you have this one in front of you. I've watched some pictures and reviews on this one before. And then also the Lego one has obviously a different setup, which the Lego is more of limited because of how its size and what they could work with. Just running through this real quick, you could see the characters. You can pause that and read it for yourself. The design of the ship, they give the instructions in black and white, but they color certain parts. So that's where you will put the batteries underneath. These are the different functions. You can pause this and read them for yourself. I'm not going to go through all of them because from what I'm seeing now, it doesn't even come with batteries. But we're not going to get into that. The only thing I just got to make sure of is that I know how to open certain things on this properly. So the first thing we're going to do is see how do we get these figures here. They pull right out. So that's pretty cool. Let's try to open this up here if we can without damaging anything. Pause this real quick. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there's not going to be too many things you'll ever have to open in your life that is more annoying than opening this set right here because of those little wire strings. But what I'm going to do first is get this landing gear down. Pull it out like that. And I think with these kind of things, you just got to be really careful because you want to also make sure that, I see this little inch piece here. I guess that's to stop it from moving too forward. You want to make sure that you don't do something that ends up breaking it because you didn't fully read the instructions like I did. So there you go, some of the color and the wash on it. A lot of people talk about that, how great it is because of the fact that it really lets you see the parts. It makes it have this almost kind of cell shaded kind of, like how some video games are like this, or some like 3D video games have like that kind of deep dark shading around it. And back in the old school days of games used to do that made it look comic-y like and stuff like that. And it has that kind of look to it to me. Let me rise the camera angle a little bit. Hold on. When I'm holding it up where it's easier to see if it's up in hand. You can see that and the details on it. I think that it looks really nice. You have this piece here, which the Lego set wasn't able to do. And we'll get into that later, but let's see if I can actually get into this and get it off. Seems to be pretty hard to do. once again. Here we go. Little cargo area there that goes upwards. And I think generally when that goes upwards, you would have a cargo bay underneath here. This is not going to have that much detail to where you have two layers, but it still has a lot of detail in it in terms of the interior. Now this is able to come out and then you can attach other ships to dock with it. Don't know if we're going to be able to display that now. Now, from my understanding, let me see. There goes the buttons for some of the sounds. Let's see how we open this. So I want to make sure that I open it correctly so we don't end up having any issues. So it's saying grab it from here and lift forward. And there we go. Now let me change this angle. Sorry about that, you guys. Okay, and it tells you which person's room it is. So I'm going to say this off the top. That way, when I display them, you guys will know which room is whose. So this one over here is Garaz. This one over here is Hera Syndulla's room. This one over here is Kanan Jarrus. This one over here is Sabine Wren. And if I'm not mistaken, in the show, what little I know, Ezra shares this a room with Garaz. So this right here is the lounge. It says in the back, and we're going to kind of cover the details and all that stuff afterwards. This seems to be the docking area where other ships can dock. So the way this goes is, I don't want to break anything. So let's hope that it doesn't, I don't end up having that kind of issue. So this should pull up like that. And then you're able to flip it. So this piece right here, we have the hole in it. Either it's facing that way or you turn it around. And then now you make it face this way. You push it down. You go like that. And essentially in the ports of a ship that would have the bay where you would put a asteroid mech, that's where you would put this into that piece of the ship. But being that I don't have one of those to display on here, you can buy a set that has those ships included. But anyway, you see on the instructions just really quick. I just want to make sure if there's anything that I'm kind of forgetting. Okay. So first, let me get the characters out so that way I can kind of situate them around and about. I already went over the names, so I'm not going to go over all the names again because some of them I really don't know that well. This guy's name I keep butchering, Garaz. Like I said, some people are fans of the shows they know for a long time, but if you've been watching Ahsoka, that wasn't the case. So some pretty good detail. Even though, to be honest with you, it looks like for mine, this is very weird. I don't know if he's just like this, so someone else can correct in the comments below. His arms look like they've been put on backwards. Look at his thumbs. So he's a backwards figure. This is very weird. And I don't think he's just naturally designed like that. So I have a disfigured figure. This is Kanan. Spoiler alert, this guy dies in Rebels, the show. Hera Syndulla, who is the main captain of the ship. These are so small. Sorry that they don't come up that great on camera. And then here is Sabine Wren. He's like Mandalorian slash Jedi in training. And throw that back on in case if I want to save this. I'm gonna throw that to the side. Now, this, like I said before, is the layout of things, and you have their rooms here. You can see they apply the stickers. Nice. A little bit better lighting. And that's Sabine Wren's room. So it's very decorative. See if I can zoom in and you can see some of those extra details on there. I'm sorry again about the focusing. All this wacky stuff all over her room. They have stickers as well on other characters' rooms, but they're not as crazy and stuff like that. Sticker over here. This is all sticker along there. That whole wall is like a sticker. So that's one of those things where you also want to make sure that hopefully the stickers don't ever end up peeling. I don't think they would ever ruin the set if that ever did happen. It would just suck. But out of the rooms here, not really anything going on in these rooms. Level of detail as Sabine's room. So then also too, we have the cockpit here. Let me just make sure I know how to open this. Okay, it pops up like that. And there you can see you've got seating for all. There's 4, and then that right there is for Chopper, the droid. You have this the little gunner seat, so you can seat everybody in it, and the detail is just really nice. And like I said, you're getting the full size of the ship in terms of like all the detail. The only thing that's missing, which you can't really kind of do on this scale, or it'd be like too much a little bit, is underneath it, and in the HasLabs one, you'd be able to lift this panel up, and then the cargo area would be down below. Because the way it works is this cargo ramp kind of comes up, and then below here is cargo area. So yeah, but other than that, there is this, which is a little hatch door here. And what did they label this on the instructions? On the instructions, they call this a hidden engine room. Let's see if we can get that up. I am going to try to use a tool. Hopefully I don't end up damaging it. And it feels like it's going to damage it, to be honest with you. Like it's about to just break it off, and I'm not understanding why it's so hard. Let's see. So I'm having trouble with this, and there we go. I don't know why this was so hard to come up, and actually this is almost, looks like it's about to break now. So be careful with this. I don't know why it's so hard to just pull up. I tried just pulling it up naturally and it wouldn't come up. But this gives you access to it says the hidden engine room. Engine room there. And then a little more. And Chopper could sit down there. They actually show him sitting there in the photo on the instructions. So that could also be used to just kind of put someone down there, cover it up after the fact. Now, close it up. So just be careful with that because it seems to be very hard to open up. I don't know why. And even I put it back on, it doesn't seem to just lift up. I don't know why it's like that. But then when it came up, it seemed like it came up so easy. It's definitely going to be one of those things that I could see breaking over time. So be careful with that. I would probably just not, open it up that often. Zoom back in, get some of the details here. You have that kind of little chessboard thing. I'm not sure what that's called. Um, and other little details that are going on in here. It's just really nice to get all that. You got that computer right there. Yeah, that would be the outside door going to the ghost or the dock area. I mean, sorry, the phantom or the docking area. And here shows you would climb the ladder to go up there. So just really great detail. That's for the most part it. I mean, I'll just give you some scope of showing some of the characters standing around on the inside to give you that sense of what that looks like. You see that right there, it gives you a sense of the scale, and that's what makes this line so great is that scaling with the characters. So you definitely feel like you know, that feeling of like, okay, like you are able to really just see everything within that scope. And just even if someone was the type who wants to create scenes or just take photos of these things, it's just really awesome because of that scale. It really gives you that sense of um, everything that's going on. You get that sense. Like I said, you're not going to get that with the Lego set because they don't fit the same scale. You obviously, unless you had money or opportunity to buy the HasLabs or the space for it, you wouldn't be able to deal with that as well. So that's pretty much the look at this. I'm going to close it up and I'm going to do a little just comparison. With the Lego set. If I could get this thing to close. Okay, I see now. It's yeah, it's a little tricky to get to close and all. Just be a little mindful of that. Okay, so definitely the kind of thing that you want to really just probably display, not necessarily play with. I think if this was used as a play toy for kids, you would definitely risk it. You know, you would definitely run the risk of really breaking it. And this is kind of expensive to be something that you break like that. So, get him inside there. So I'll just show that. That comes down, rotates. Now, like I mentioned before, this is the Ahsoka rendition. Like I said, the only difference when you say that is just the characters that come along with it. But this is the Lego Ghost play scale. And you can see the size of the ships are roughly almost about the same size. Now, obviously, certain things in Lego over exaggerated and other things are less exaggerated. And the reason for that is because, adjust this angle a little bit, is because, it has to fit within what they call play scale. So, what that means is you have to have room for, say, the figures to fit. So, they're so much bigger. But with that being said, um, So that's why the front bubble area is bigger to accommodate the size of one of their figures, where this one is able to fit, the micro scale figures. The overall size of the ships look about the same. The Lego one is bumped up higher. Don't mind, I threw a little extras on the side here that doesn't normally go there. But you could see here when it comes to Lego, and even though it's not a Lego review, but just in terms of interior, my interior is slightly customized, but you can tell that in terms of interior, it's a lot different when it comes to the space that you can manage with Lego. That's pretty much the interior space. There's really not anything else there for interior space, where you see with this here, all this other stuff is going on with the hallways and going down the sides. Down this area have hallways and whatnot. This doesn't. So, and it's not to compare directly, but it's just to say that if you want a model that is going to give you almost an exact replica, or is an exact replica of the Ghost, in that shape, in that form, this is a way to get that. I love the Lego set completely, but they're for different purposes, and I just kind of wanted to like show that because of the fact that I actually have Lego Ghost model to be able to show that size wise that they're almost the same, but scale wise within the relation of the size of the characters, this right here would probably be about 4 times its overall size to match the scaling of this, with the figures and the detail that goes on in the inside. So just wanted to point that out to you guys. Like I said, if someone's just looking for to have, they're interested in that ship in the Ghost and they just want to have a model for display, this is really the best way to go, in terms of affordability, space, in terms of the detail, in terms of the realisticness of it fitting within, the scope and the scale. So that's my thoughts with this. Put your comments down below. What do you guys think? Whatever the cases, do you guys have this? Are you interested in it? Are you not interested in a micro squadron line, micro galaxy squadron line? Whatever the case is, or would you rather purchase a Lego, whatever the case is, or just whatever your thoughts are. As always, you guys like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.